by the Ministry of Health.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Leslie Ann Johnson. Welcome to this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. We're talking health this morning, so good morning to all of you. Joining us on the Channel 22 or Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and of course our live stream, as well as good morning to you in the diaspora and to our colleagues joining us via Zoom. As I mentioned, we're talking health this morning, so we have with us the Minister for Health and Social Security, the Honourable Nicholas Steele, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles. So without any further ado, I'll hand you over to the Honourable Minister. Good morning.
Good morning, Leslie, and good morning to all of your viewers and listeners out there. Before I proceed with any announcements or so, I will ask Dr. Charles just to give an update with respect to the status specific to COVID-19, number of cases, vaccines, etc.
Pleasant good morning to everyone. So I will present a brief update as to the status of cases and otherwise in Grenada. Some of the data that I will present here is as recent as the 11th, because particularly the data on vaccination and number of doses still being collated. So as of today, with regards to the number of cases, Grenada has recorded a total of 163 confirmed cases of COVID. Our last case was identified on July 6th, and 2021, and that case is still in isolation and is being followed up. Our previous case, the one immediately before that, was sometime in July. Sorry, our last case was 6th of July, and the previous case was sometime in June, and has since recovered and returned to country of origin. To note, our last two cases were both unvaccinated and non-Grenadian. Sorry. The total number of PCR tests done to date, 41,034. With regards to vaccination, we have so far administered a total of 35,331 doses, and this figure is up to the 11th of July. Of that, 20,421 persons received their first dose, and 14,910 received their second dose. This basically is the status with regards to COVID. We continue to experience a good spell, a good period with regards to cases. We have been able to control and prevent the introduction of the disease to Grenada so far, but we know that we have a long road ahead of us, and there are many factors that can contribute to things going in a different direction. So we just want to encourage everyone to continue to be vigilant, continue to do everything in your power to ensure that we remain this way and we remain safe. Thank you.
Thank you, CMO. So, Honourable Minister Steele, back to you.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. Let me thank Dr. Sean for that update. And let me start by thanking all of those who have been working very hard at our borders and in our communities to keep us as safe as possible and to push forward as best as possible with the vaccination drive. We still have very low vaccine uptake compared to other islands and with respect to the targets that we need to get to in order to put COVID-19 behind us. We are seeing almost all of our neighboring countries and the world at large seeing an increase in cases. While we are seeing a global trend of increase in cases, we are not seeing the equivalent increase in death rates. And that is because the majority of the countries in which we are seeing that spike are significantly vaccinated, or at least their at-risk persons are vaccinated. We saw as recently as yesterday, Barbados announced that of the cases in circulation within their community, they have the Alpha variant, which is from the UK, Delta variant from Brazil, and Lambda, which is also from South America. Some countries are spiking and taking restrictive measures around us, like we have seen with Barbados. Trinidad to date has 937 deaths. Barbados recently took its restrictive measures with respect to increased curfew. BVI in the last 3 weeks have seen 300 positive cases in the last 3 weeks. Moved from 300 to 1,147 positive cases. So almost a vertical spike in the last 3 weeks with 3 deaths. St. Lucia currently has 130 active cases, 1 person in critical care as of yesterday. My brothers and sisters, we are not any different, just that to date we have been spared based on the restrictive measures that have come at a significant cost and inconvenience to us all. These restrictive measures should not have to continue. We should be looking at further easement of these measures because we should be at a level where our population is protected by utilizing all of the tools. So I urge all of you who have not yet taken the vaccine to please come forward. Take the vaccine, inquire with the Ministry of Health to get whatever information is relevant to that. Do not follow disinformation. We need to get past this. Well, I also would like to announce that we are announcing 2 measures specific to travel into quarantine. First is effective immediately. Persons 13 years and under traveling with a fully vaccinated party will be treated like that party as fully vaccinated with respect to quarantine. So if you're traveling with children 13 and under, and you and everyone else in the travel party of age is fully vaccinated, then the entire party will only have to do 48 hours quarantine. Individuals over the age of 5 are swabbed like all other adults at the airport. But children 13 and under are treated the same as their travel party. So if their travel party is fully vaccinated, then they will be treated the same for quarantine. If their travel party is not fully vaccinated, then they will also be treated as not fully vaccinated. I stress on fully vaccinated, which means that everyone in the party has had their second dose on a double dose vaccine at least 14 days before arrival into Grenada, or their single dose at least 14 days before arrival into Grenada. The other measure, which takes effect from the 31st of July, is that outside of citizens and residents of Grenada, no one is allowed to enter Grenada unless they are fully vaccinated. So citizens and residents can return to Grenada, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated. But any visitor to Grenada must be fully vaccinated from the 31st of July. We have given, we hope, enough notice for individuals. We do apologize for any inconvenience that this may bring to persons. We've had consultations with the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association, the GTA, and other stakeholders as well to give them as much warning as possible. Announcements were actually made yesterday hinting to it by our Minister of Tourism. So from the 31st of July, persons entering Grenada, if you are not a citizen or resident, you must be fully vaccinated. Otherwise, you will be denied entry. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, and thank you to CMO as well. Colleagues, good morning. You've heard from both gentlemen. Are you ready with your questions? Nancy Maguire, good morning.
Good morning. Are you hearing me all right?
Yes, we're hearing you. Go right ahead. We're hearing you.
Thank you. I have a question for the minister. In June, you had said you had met with or were planning to meet with the Grenada Medical Association and the Medical and Dental Council and the Nurses Association to have them produce definitive statements. I have only seen a statement from the Grenada Medical Association that emphasized the importance of masks, social distancing, and hygiene. But they did not directly say get vaccinated, nor did they say consult with your medical practitioner about it. So I'm wondering how you feel about that and whether you have received the statements from the other associations. My second question is for Dr. Charles. There are some reports that the AstraZeneca that we have here that was produced in India is not recognized or not listed on the European Medical Association green list or whatever it's called. Can you just clarify that? Thank you both.
Yep, Nancy, thank you for that question. I have met with all three organizations, both the CMO and myself. You are correct that not all of them have made statements with respect to the protocols to be followed or supporting vaccination. That is regrettable because all of the parent organizations, regional and international, have clearly made statements with respect to supporting vaccination. And I, like you, I think it is time that they, as professionals, either follow the international professional organization or give the public a good reason why they will not.
So, with regards to the question directed to me, I'm going to give you my knowledge of the issue. All right, and I am not deeply knowledgeable on the issue because there is an element of vaccine politics and so on that applies here. The AstraZeneca vaccine was developed by the University of Oxford. All right, the AstraZeneca company is manufacturing the vaccine. The Serum Institute of India, all right, was licensed to produce the vaccine. All right, so it's the same vaccine. The Serum Institute of India was licensed to produce the vaccine. The Europeans have chosen to approve only the vaccine that is produced in Europe and not necessarily consider the fact that the vaccine is being produced under license by another producer. I think one of the comments I've heard is that the Serum Institute maybe did not apply separately for a license with the European authorities, because simply they are a licensed manufacturer, and I'm guessing in their thought, they did not need to relicense the same vaccine. All right. So there is some element of vaccine politics. There is a lot that is written on this subject. It is creating a lot of outrage because this vaccine was not only administered here in the Caribbean. It's the same vaccine that went to Canada, the same vaccine that went to the UK. All right. So, like I said, there is some element of vaccine politics that is occurring here, and we wait for the giants to solve this issue among themselves. Thank you.
Let me just add, right now, all the vaccines on island are licensed throughout. They are not the SII Serum Institute. We've used up all of those, or as we had announced, we had shared with the government and people of Trinidad the remaining stock of those. So all the vaccines currently are accepted internationally. The AstraZeneca the batch that we have is produced in Italy.
Thank you. GBN, good morning.
Good morning. I have a question for you, Minister Steele. Government has lobbied over the past few weeks and even over the past few months regarding carnival-like activities. And lately what I've noticed, and I believe other persons noticed, is that while individuals are encouraged not to have carnival-like activities, we still see within the communities a lot of jab bans and stuff like that. But also we've seen businesses hosting events of the same. Now, knowing that the Ministry of Health would have to give these businesses permission, do you have on record that the Ministry of Health gave these businesses permission to hold such an event or such events? Would these businesses have the opportunity to host this event going forward, meaning that the Ministry of Health would allow this to happen? And how is the police force helping this? Because within these events, you would see members of the Royal Grenada Police Force among the crowd patrolling, but not stopping the event.
I can speak to from the Ministry of Health standpoint. We receive numerous applications for various types of events, private as well as commercial events. Permission is given wherever possible, particularly we've seen a significant amount of individuals applying for fully vaccinated events in recent times, and permission has been given there as well. Where the event is not fully vaccinated, then it's given with the required restrictions. As to the enforcement, we do our best with respect to trying to continually remind people of the dangers of gatherings that are not following the protocols. The police as well do their best in terms of enforcement. But there have been deliberate attempts by members of the public to have secret events, and there also have been mass public events in which I also have heard reports that police have not shut down. And I think we need to leave it to the discretion of the officer, because we also have had reports of police going to stop certain events and the crowd becoming extremely violent. So I would have to say, unless I was there to witness, I have to leave it to the discretion of the police officers and hope that law enforcement is able to enforce the laws as best as possible, and that the public is as cooperative as possible. I think what is more concerning is that we have elements out there in our society today now who are deliberately and violently objecting to the Royal Grenada Police Force enforcing the laws of the land.
Thank you, Minister. Rena, any other question from you? MTV, good morning.
Good morning. My question is to Minister Steele. Minister Steele, concerning one of the statements you made at the Parliament sitting, I think it was last week, you have been getting some backlash from the public, right? Would you care to explain further what you meant by your statements relating to Grenadians will die and COVID-19 will have its way?
I still stand by my statements, and as I said in my opening remarks, we're seeing COVID-19 spiking throughout the Caribbean, throughout the world. In the countries where we're seeing spikes and not seeing a significant increase in the death rates are the countries that have a significant level of vaccination. I think as a parliamentarian and as a Minister of Health, one needs to be responsible, and I chose to make those remarks in the Parliament so they go down on record. That right now, we cannot expect Grenada to be any different from the rest of the world with respect to a pandemic, and that the fact is we have a very low level of vaccine uptake. We have a very high level of individuals with comorbidities here in Grenada that are at risk. And therefore, if and when we do get a second wave, like every other country in the world, we have to be realistic and expect. I will not sugarcoat it. We have to expect that there will be deaths. The health system will be inundated if we do not take the necessary steps to protect ourselves as individual citizens, which is vaccination.
Any other question, MTV?
No.
All right, Minister, somebody is asking, I guess as a follow-up, what is there going to be another lottery, vaccination lottery?
But the first lottery was held, or raffle, so to speak, was held in conjunction with the NLA and CBN. And all three parties, that is Government of Grenada, Ministry of Health, the NLA and CBN, we're looking and analyzing what the results were from it to see what is the best next step to take. It's possible that there would be another lottery, but at the end of the day, it's regrettable that we had to go to that extent to actually pay people or offer some sort of prize of chance for persons to protect themselves. But as a responsible government, caring government, we have to do whatever is possible for us to convince individuals out there who have not yet come forward to take the vaccine to do so.
Thank you. GBN, you have another question?
Yes, I do. Minister, understanding that the problem the ministry and the members of the Royal Grenada Police Force are being faced with these events, is your office thinking about stopping all events, understanding that it can keep the crowds in control as it relates to the protocols?
I continue to have faith in the Grenadian people, and the hope is that good sense will prevail. More and more persons come forward to be vaccinated, and more persons like yourself speak out as well. And good sense will prevail. I do hope that individuals will continue, the majority of individuals will continue to conform to the laws that are put there and regulations that are put there to keep us safe. The Royal Grenada Police Force has a very difficult task ahead in the next couple of weeks or so, on top of their regular duties of law enforcement. They also have to now try to have persons maintain a certain level of moderation to keep those individuals safe under an existing pandemic. So All I can ask for is the cooperation of the public at large. Individuals like yourself, like myself, and many others out there see this and do not agree with it. But we are silent. I think we need to speak out because it's happening in our own neighborhoods. And these are our sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, etc., that are out there putting us all at risk. So we need to be our brother's keeper. I've consistently said that throughout this pandemic, and it takes all, not just the Royal Grenada Police Force. It takes all of us to keep us safe.
Any other question, Rena?
Yes, Minister, but I mean, don't want to prolong it too much, but isn't that contradictory to what we are trying to avoid? We are allowing an avenue for what we are trying to avoid. We're
Well-
letting the sessions go on, understanding that we cannot control the situation, but yet we're still hoping that some of these people who continue to be rebellious.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear.
Are you hearing me better now?
Yes.
Right. So isn't this a situation where we are contradicting what we are saying? Because you're saying, one, that Grenadians will die or will undergo severe issues if we do not take the vaccine and follow protocols, but yet we're leaving an avenue for them to not follow protocols and do what they want because we cannot control the situation because they become rebellious. So is this not contradicting the situation?
It is. I agree with you to an extent. It is contradictory. We live in a democracy, though, and the hope is that good sense prevails. The hope is that the majority will comply. But we have to acknowledge that there will be others who just choose to be non-compliant, choose to be disruptive, and choose to throw caution to the wind and place us all at risk. Such are the plights, pluses, and values of a democracy. We can only hope that they will value the nation as a whole enough to not choose that to throw caution to the wind to make a couple dollars this carnival season, or to celebrate recklessly.
That's it, Rena? Nancy, you have another question?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Minister, I wonder if you would address the situation with the workers at the St. George's University in terms of the support that they seem to be getting from the Grenada Trade Unions Council about what they're saying is enforced vaccination. And looking ahead, we see vaccination at places of business, hospitals or whatever around the world having vaccinations required. And I'm just wondering, with the situation there, do you feel they've been educated enough, informed enough about the vaccination? Or is this a matter of just being against it because they need to do it? Or is it a matter of some of the crazy conspiracy theories that are circulating that scare people away from it? Sorry to be so long-winded.
Nancy, I think you've given the answers in your question. All I can say is that we support the position taken by St. George's University to protect their employees, their students, and Grenada as a whole. And we encourage other organizations, entities, to also be as proactive as St. George's University. We regret to see that certain organizations are spending their energy, time, and effort to convince persons not to take the vaccine, as opposed to spending their energy, time, and effort to convince persons to take the vaccine. I've heard the argument of rights of individuals, but I think the right to life and health supersedes any of the other rights that individuals are speaking about. And as such, we think that's what individuals and entities should be working on with their members. But it is their choice, their decision to choose which rights of the workers they will uphold and which rights of the workers they see as more important than the other. They are an independent organization, and in this democracy, we respect their presence and their right to make whatever decisions on behalf of their members.
That's it, Nancy?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so Minister, we know the cancellation of Carnival Bill last week in Parliament, and then there's Senate tomorrow. And we know what happened last year. Even though the holidays were cancelled, there were still pockets of people in the various parishes on Juve morning. How are we going to handle that this year?
Well, all I can say is that I hope good sense will prevail. I hope that we take into consideration that the risk is higher now than it was last year. The variants out there are more communicable than they were then. So, and that hopefully we've learned the lessons, for instance, in Trinidad. I see a lot of people, and there's someone now on social media saying, that all of our official ports are under control, and therefore, why not relax? All of Trinidad's ports were under control as well. In fact, it was even harder to return to Trinidad or travel to Trinidad than it has been throughout to come to Grenada. And yet still, Trinidad is experiencing what it is. We at the Ministry of Health have consistently said that because we have monitoring and systems in place at the ports does not mean that COVID-19 cannot or will not come in. I say again, Trinidad had full monitoring of all of its ports, and they are still dealing with, at present, a mass outbreak with 937 deaths. So anyone who thinks that because Grenada has monitoring and control of its ports, that is enough, they just need to look 90 miles to the south.
Colleagues, anybody else with questions?
Minister, just to clarify, you talk about the new protocols coming in later on in a few days. Does that include the persons coming in from the sea, yachties?
Sorry, I missed the last part of the question. Does that include what? Anyone entering Grenada. That's why we've given that period. You need to be fully vaccinated to enter Grenada. So, unless you are a citizen or resident, you must be fully vaccinated.
That's it, colleagues. Anybody else with questions? Minister, I have one from social media. The regulations that we're putting in place for the 31st of this month. Of course, we're trying to balance economic activities with the health of the nation as well. But how do you see this? Or do you see it in any way sort of affecting us negatively in any way, economically? Because then there might be some people who would have planned to come, but they're not fully vaccinated, and now they would have to cancel based on the rules and regulations.
Yeah, any and all of our restrictive measures that have been put there to keep us as safe as possible, yes, will have negative effects on our economy. The curfew, I'm sure, is having the need to apply to enter, the requirement for quarantine, whether it's 48 hours or the 7 days, the cost of the PCR test, all of these measures are having negative effects for individuals considering whether Grenadian returning home, visiting, or tourists are considering coming to Grenada. But they're deemed necessary at this point in time to keep us safe, that we put life first, the life of our citizens first. And regrettably, these types of measures have to continue until we can remove the risk or have the risk of COVID-19 removed, and that is through vaccination. We're seeing other countries that are able to remove their restrictions and ease opening. The UK, Canada, and specifically. So I think we need to look at the same social media, use the same social media medium, and see. The UK is opening up because its citizens are vaccinated. Canada is contemplating the same because its citizens are vaccinated. Europe the same because its citizens are vaccinated. The President of the United States said from the 4th of July and has been easing all of the restrictions because their citizens are vaccinated. We need to recognize that in Grenada, until we are able to say because our citizens are vaccinated, we are going to be plagued with these various restrictions to try and keep us as safe as possible.
You wanted to add something? No. Anybody else with questions, colleagues? All right, so if nobody has questions, we will wrap up at this point. So I will start with the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles, and then we'll have the final word from the Honorable Minister.
Okay, so it is the duty of the state to warn and to prepare its citizens when there is a threat that is imminent. It is our duty as a Ministry of Health to warn our citizens and to prepare our citizens for the impending threat that is COVID-19. There are many factors that place us at an increased risk of introduction, spread, a massive outbreak, whichever way you look at it. One, we note that the travel is increasing. All right. Summertime is traditionally the time of the year when many of our family members come back home. All right, whether it's to partake in the summer festivals or to just send the kids home to spend the vacation with their grandparents and so on. Travel is increasing. We noted during this press briefing that there's an increase in the number of social gatherings, and there's a worrying increase in the number of unsafe social gatherings, because the practices that you see, it's almost every weekend you see another video coming out with persons engaging in different kinds of activities, and you rarely see any adherence to any of the prevention measures. All right, so we have general non-adherence to the protocols and the guidelines. I mean, it's evident if you just walk down the street, you'll see it. We have relaxation of control measures in other countries that is causing an increase in the number of infections in those countries at the same time that we have increased travel from those countries. So it puts us at risk. We have a low level of vaccination. I mean, we're far from that target that we want to get at, and we don't have access to all of the vaccines that we would want. And then there is the question of the variants. These variants that are really sending the world in a tailspin right now, because they are spread so easily. They are much more contagious, make many more persons sick, and of course the number of deaths will follow. So it is our duty to make the public aware of all of these, all right, and all of these factors They are there. And we have to let the public know that, we are not different from the rest of the world. We have worked hard and we have been fortunate, but we are not different. It only takes one case and things can be dramatically different. And I think the public is also aware of the limitations of our own public health system. None of us can pretend that we don't know of the limitations that we have. When all of these are taken together, we hope that persons would be more responsible. All right? We hope that persons would be more responsible and assist us. The Ministry of Health should not be fighting the pandemic and fighting these individuals who are, their only intent, it seems, is chaos, because that is exactly what will occur if we get an outbreak. So we have to expend a lot of energy to keep this pandemic out and to get persons to simply obey and do the right thing. And it really isn't a good place to be. We're just asking everyone to, just assist us and let us continue to keep this country safe. Thank you.
Thank you, CMO. Honorable Minister, the final word.
Yep. I'm not sure what else can be said, but I want to touch on one point. The COVID-19 vaccines is not an experimental vaccine. And there's some people out there promoting this thought or concept on social media. That's incorrect. 3.5 billion doses have been given to date. In fact, it's now up to 22 million doses per day are being administered worldwide. And I think individuals need to recognize the difference between emergency use and experimental use. This is not an experimental vaccine. Emergency use means that the use is fast-tracked to make available because there is a global emergency to get it to as all the countries in a timely manner. That is the emergency that has allowed the use of this, not the experiment. It's the emergency of a global pandemic to get a vaccine, this vaccine or these vaccines out to the world. We have had this vaccine available to our population in Grenada since February 13th, in fact. We've had so much available that we have had to give away to our neighboring countries that were in need, whose citizens, I can only assume because they were seeing the death and destruction of COVID-19 amongst their communities and families, recognize the benefits of being vaccinated. I do hope that we can find, as a people, the benefits of taking the vaccine without having to wait until we see the death and destruction in our own community. Because regrettably by then that will be too late for many of us. Many of us. Please take note that those that are dying from COVID-19 still are those that are unvaccinated. Almost 99% of those who are dying in the US, in the UK, in Canada, in our Caribbean islands are those who are unvaccinated. And please, for those who are holding off to say, I'll take it, but I'm just waiting a while, or when the risk is greater, I'll take it. The ones that are dying that are unvaccinated are those that are not fully vaccinated. It will be too late if you rush to take it because it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks before you can get your second dose. That's a month and a half. And then another 14 days before your body has built up its antibodies. So many still continue to throw caution to the wind. Regrettably, that places us on almost a unavoidable trajectory of having a second wave and having deaths here in Grenada, having our health system inundated. We will do our best to mitigate, but we must also be realistic and honest with the community at large. That if we do not get to the level of vaccinations, when we do have that second wave, and it's not because of lack of monitoring of our ports or so, it is because it's human beings who are coming into Grenada legally or illegally, and some of them are making every effort to divert or to circumvent the regulations and restrictions and systems we've put in place. And it will take just one of those in one of our illegal mass gatherings to start. And in fact, I speak to your brothers and sisters in Barbados, you will see the most recent outbreak was caused at a church service. Significantly, not the act of people going to church. No. Not following the protocols while in a public gathering, wherever it is. So many of our churches, most of our churches, have been fully compliant and continue to be fully compliant. But it will only take one. So I encourage all of our churches to continue doing, our church leaders, to continue doing what they have been doing, those who have been keeping us safe, those who have been keeping their flock safe. All of us. And all of our other leaders out there. And I will remind us all, we are all leaders in our own individual right. What we say influences others, our friends, our family. So let us do our best to keep this nation safe and to prevent what to date is almost an inevitability. There is still time that we can prevent it. We can still intervene and prevent that inevitability through vaccination. The vaccines are available. The individuals are out there to give the vaccines. So I am pleading with individuals to please come forward and take the necessary steps to protect themselves from COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister for Health and Social Security Nicholas Steele and the Chief Medical Officer Sean Charles. Colleagues, thank you so much for all of you joining us on the Zoom, as well as those of you who joined us on via Channel 22, our Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and our live stream, and those of you in the diaspora. And a quick note before we leave, tune in to the Government Information Service at 4 o'clock this afternoon for a conversation on the National Health Insurance with Dr. Kester Ned, the Chairman and CEO of the JIPA Network. So as I mentioned, that begins at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it will be live on the Government Information Service. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson. Have a blessed day, everybody. Thank you.